Ciao friends! Alberto and I just completed the recording of the third edition of the Mastering DAX video course, and we decided why not to record an Unplugged where we talk about the latest book and video course that we created. So this is the book. We waited a few months before receiving a copy.
Receiving it on paper.
It took a while.
And in the meantime, we recorded a video training. That was a massive work.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a long training. I think the video recording is more than 30 hours, I guess, the lectures. But we thought about that. Is it too much? I think it was the right time because the pace we have is, I would say, not slower, but more calm. Okay, we introduced the concepts from the beginning in an easy way. We also introduced new ways to describe the filter context.
I think this was one of the main critics to the previous trainings and also the previous book. We had a lot of theory to begin with, so it was hard, especially for newbies. That's why people typically refer to our work as advanced. You cannot start there because it's too complicated.
I think a common comments I have seen many times is you should start with another book, and then you get the definitive guide to DAX. So we tried to,
which, by the way, made sense. So it was not wrong.
No, it makes sense because we didn't write the previous two editions as a way to start from zero. And I would say that also in this edition, you need to know the user interface of Power BI Desktop. We don't spend
not at all.
Not even a page with a screenshot. So we assume that you know where to write the DAX code. But then when it comes to writing the DAX code, we start from the very beginning.
Yeah. And I think something that really changed from the previous training is that this is much longer.
Yeah.
The previous training, we decided to cut some content in order to focus on only some topics. Here we decided to tell everything. All what we know about DAX is there, but not all what we know. There are still chapters that requires
I would say that the content of the book is basically in the video course. There are additional links that we included in the book in the video course for additional insights. You know, if you want to go much deeper on certain topics, for example, topics for which we have white papers on SQL BI Plus, or even just articles that go in depth in details that are not important for the day-by-day use.
Yeah, because something might change at some point, so we're going to update, of course, the links and the links so they can proceed further.
So, what do you think that is the next step? So, if you learn DAX with the content we have, can you write DAX for any formula, or you still have to study something else?
Practice. That's the thing. I keep on telling everybody, DAX is simple, but it's not easy. It requires time. It requires to focus on the topic. And also requires to practice, I wouldn't say every day, but frequently.
Well, if you write DAX, let's say, every week, then probably you want to go very deep in the training. If you use DAX once in a while, so you probably will reach halfway of the book on end of the training, and you are good because you already know a lot of stuff.
Yeah, because by the way, we designed specifically for that.
Yeah.
So we created the training so that if you don't reach the end, that's good enough. I mean, whenever you decide to stop learning, you already learned something good. You don't have to wait at the end to become a real DAX master.
Well, I mean, you have probably to reach, I would say, chapter 10. 9, 10, something like that. No, halfway.
Which is halfway.
Yeah, halfway. Halfway is, you know, if you don't reach halfway, you probably make many mistakes. Yeah, so you probably have to go at least halfway to have a good level of DAX for even just medium to large models. If you have complex calculations or very large models, or you have, very advanced situations where you need to mix the model.
One thing that we removed from the previous book.
All right.
the optimizing part and all the internals about Vertipack.
We have an entire book for
optimization. Because the thing is,
so that's
we had to write the brick in order to.
Now we had 2 bricks.
Now we have 2 bricks actually, because that was too much a complex topic. So we removed it from the. It was not in the training before, but it was in the book. Now it's no longer in the book.
The reality is that if you write good DAX code, usually you don't need to optimize it. So the need for optimization, 90% of the times is because you made some mistake. And you have to find where the mistake is.
Or because your model, let's say it's suboptimal in a very political way.
But the engine is very forgiving. So actually you need to optimize the code when you either made a very big mistake or you have a large amount of data. So one of the two could be enough to trigger, a few seconds waiting. Our goal is always to, any query less than 1-2 seconds, something like that, so that you can refresh the page very
I think the boundary is around 100 million rows. If you have less than 100 million rows and your code is really slow, you did something really dirty.
Well, to be honest, when I have 10 million rows, for me the model is small. I don't consider the model, so a large model should have at least 100 million rows in a table, because otherwise it cannot be called a large model. That's my opinion.
And it cannot be slow. That's the thing.
Well, it depends on how you write
it depends on how well your DAX code is, of course.
But here's the thing. So there is no need to optimize the code if you write good DAX code. If you follow the best practices, if you follow the guidelines, if you filter columns, not tables, iterate columns, not tables, these are the very, very basic principles. We explain in the training why you have to do that. And then if you don't do that, then of course you will find surprises, and then you have to get the second brick to optimize it. That's a good point.
Anyway, that was a huge amount of work. We spent, I don't know, a couple of years working on that.
Well, the majority of the time, so the way we work, maybe this could be interesting for someone.
Maybe.
First, we write the book, then we record a video training, and lastly, we create the exercises. Which is a work in progress. So probably when we will ship the video training,
it's unlikely that
we will not have all the exercises completed. Probably there will be already a good amount of them.
Hopefully quickly, Italian quickly.
But the idea is that the exercises will be introduced gradually over the next few weeks, so that we will complete the training. But many people are waiting to get this new training, so we wanted to absolutely respect the deadline end of March. So that's what we're going to do.
That sounds good.
So any other ideas?
I'm thinking about.
I don't know. This is an Unplugged, so we have no schedule here.
I'm thinking what to add to that.
That's the computer that
raises. Of course.
Let me shut up.
And believe it or not, it happened also during the recording of the training. So from time to time, some beep.
No, but the beep is not. We quiet it, so you don't hear it.
Not really every time. I know.
Just 2 or 3 times.
I look at them and say, "Oh, should I record the video?" Not because of. there are small mistakes in the video. Yeah. That's totally expected. You cannot record 30 hours without making any mistake. They are there. They are just moments to learn.
We made a lot of takes. We don't.
We do, but still, I think there is a value in saying that we made a mistake during writing the code, because we are not heroes. We are not.
When you explain it, why? Yes. So if you just
exactly.
If you
explain, to me, it's important, because a lot of time people ask us, how can you write DAX so quickly and never make any mistake? We do mistake, a lot of them.
We just fix them quickly.
Yeah, exactly. And if it happens that there is a mistake, which is a learning moment, that makes sense. Just leave it in the video.
Yeah, I have to say, we have to retake the video when we approach a situation where the mistake requires to go back and redo something, or maybe sometime the computer had a problem, bugs in Power BI.
Or the language barrier. I hate that so much. The language barrier. English is not my mother language.
True.
So sometimes you are speaking and you want to say the next word, it just doesn't reach your tongue, and you're there, say, okay, retake. That's fine.
Yeah, that they will not see that. So
no, because we remove them.
Cut it. Yes, and okay, so we are waiting for the exercises. We completed this video training, but we're going to still write about DAX. There are many new features that have been released in the last months. I think that, for example, if we can take just a couple of minutes about the content of the training, we have new modules about
visual calculations, user-defined functions,
calendar-based time intelligence.
The calendar-based time intelligence, that's massive.
And I would say that for the visual calculations and the window functions, I think that the book is 100% aligned with whatever we go GA. The moment we're recording, visual calculations are not generally available, but we expect this to happen relatively soon. Maybe when they watch the video already, I don't know. We'll see.
Okay, with functions, they introduce a few features after we recorded everything, and after not after we recorded, after the book. User-defined functions,
yes. And probably also for the calendar. For the calendar, that's the reason why we have, in those two models, we included a couple of links to pages on our website where we will keep the pages up to date with the new content and new updates. Because, of course, these are features that are in preview, but they are so important that we wanted to include them in the book, in the video course. What we have in the video course in the book is good and it is here to stay, but Microsoft is adding a few other details, features that can enrich both the user-defined functions and calendar-based time intelligence. That, of course, that can be useful, but it's the foundation is important, and the importance of the user-defined functions is so high for the years to come, and I expect to see very different DAX models in the next 2, 3, 4 years. And also for the AI, user-defined functions make it simpler to split the code. Because you can access a library of functions, for example, and so instead of having the AI writing a lot of code that
the AI code the function. That's interesting. Never thought about that.
What?
Teaching the AI what the function library is so that it can actually use it in order to avoid
that's a goal.
Writing the code all the time.
That's a goal. So definitely. So I see this in two different, let's say, stages. One is to just use existing libraries. On daxlib.org, we already have tens of libraries written by the community, and this number will just grow. And the advantage of those functions is that they are easy to use, especially for the AI, because the AI will find the documentation, will find the source code, and you just have to use it. And so it's easier to enrich your model with calculations or just visualization tricks. We have SVG visuals created with the libraries. But in a second step, when you create your own model and you have complex business logic that you want to share with other models, if you embed that logic in a user-defined function that you write manually or that you write with the help of the AI, what you obtain in reality is something that is easier to reuse. The problem with the AI is that you might create 10 different versions of the same calculation just because you run the same prompt 10 times. And even though it works, then you look at the code and you say, wait a minute, why this is different even though it produces the same result? That's the risk. So consolidating what you consider the best version of the code in a function makes the code easier to read because you just read the name of the function. You don't have to read the 10, 20, 30 lines of code that you have in the function for the calculation, for example.
Cool.
Okay, I think that time for us to stop this because we have...
and do prepare some exercises and work on the final steps of the training.
So let's go back to work.
Yeah, totally.
Enjoy DAX.
Enjoy DAX.
Brutta questa uscita.
Orribile.
Vediamo com'è venuta. Alberto, this was the worst possible exit ever in every video we ever recorded. So we have
no energy at all. It was just
3,
2, 1.
Enjoy DAX.